Russia has launched an offensive from a new direction. The Ukrainian army is heroically holding the defense. Ukrainian drones are controlling the skies over Russia. Another attack on Moscow airports are in chaos. London is calling for increased armament for Ukraine, while in the US, Putin is being publicly threatened with getting his ass kicked. The third round of negotiations. The date has been set, and everything in Istanbul is ready for the new meeting between Ukraine and Russia. Pathetic people. The Russians have decided to steal boxer Usyk's victory. After a major scandal in Italy, the concert of Putin's friend was cancelled, and a public betrayal by an IT specialist became the reason for an ironic flash mob. Greetings, my name is Veronika Veremieva, and right now the main news. But first, like this video if you support Ukraine and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose each other on YouTube. I spent this night in a bomb shelter, and it was truly terrifying. 426 drones and 24 missiles of various types. The Russians launched a massive attack on Ukraine overnight. The Air Force reported that air defense forces neutralized 200 drones and all the missiles, while 203 drones were lost by location. Numerous explosions occurred in Kyiv and other cities. In fact, the most large-scale attack since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine was experienced last night in the Ivano-Frankivsk region.
Ivano-Frankivsk was subjected to a combined strike using both missiles and Shaheds. In 3 villages of the community, we have infrastructure damage, and the extent is currently being clarified. We know that in one of the villages in our community there are injured people, but they are in mild condition, wrote Ruslan Martinkiv, the mayor of Ivano-Frankivsk, about the shelling.
The capital was also under attack last night. In particular, there were reports of fires in 5 districts of Kyiv at once.
In the Solomiansky district, a man was killed. In the Darnitsky district, 5 people aged between 36 and 55 sustained shrapnel wounds, including a 15-year-old girl. In the Shevchenkivsky district, an elderly woman was hospitalized, according to a statement about the attack from the Kyiv police.
Once again, the Lukyanivka metro station has suffered damage. And while Russia continues to terrorize the civilian population, Ukraine as usual strikes at military targets in Russia. In the morning, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that drones attacked 5 Russian regions overnight. In particular, most of the drones were headed for the Moscow region.
And where are these drones? There are some.
In the Rostov region, drones attacked a railway junction. Because of the attack, both passenger transport and military convoys were halted. In addition, in the morning, Russian media reported that nearly 3,000 passengers in various regions of the Russian Federation were waiting for the departure of 9 flights, which were delayed due to restrictions at Moscow airports. In short, it seems that so-called instant karma for Russians who shell the civilian population in Ukraine is becoming a good tradition for our defense forces. The Russians have launched an offensive in yet another new direction in the Kharkiv region. Military serviceman Stanislav Bunyatov, with the call sign Osman, writes that in this way the Russians are trying to divert Ukrainian reserves from the Kupiansk direction.
Overall, the situation is not very favorable for us. The large length of the border allows the enemy to carry out such actions along almost the entire line. Such fires, due to a lack of reserves, have to be extinguished in a targeted manner, involving the forces of brigades that are already carrying out combat missions directly on the front line.
The enemy is also putting pressure on the Pokrovsk direction. In particular, the serviceman known as Bakhmut Demon writes about the abundance of sabotage groups.
There are more sabotage groups near Arnia, close to Pokrovsk. They're running around, those bastards. Near Arnia, they really want to at least get to the outskirts of Pokrovsk with their boots. I saw similar sabotage groups back when I was in Bakhmut.
The analysts at Deep State report that the Russians have advanced near Novotoretsk, Shevchenko, Poltavka, in Vinne, Pol, Oleksiivka and Popovy Yar, while fighting continues in Kindrativka. However, our defenders, despite the enemy's pressure, are holding the line, particularly near Vilne Pol in Donetsk region. Our defenders delivered a truly spectacular blow to the Russians. Despite Russia's numerical advantage at the front, Ukrainians are holding the line through sheer determination. Ukrainians desperately need more weapons to stop Russia and move forward. We all know they are capable of this. Write a few kind words to Ukrainian soldiers in the comments because, besides weapons, they need our support. Personally, I have several friends on the front lines who definitely watch our news. They always enjoy reading supportive comments. Glory to Ukraine! On the 21st of July, a meeting in the Ramstein format began, involving 52 countries, and the negotiations themselves are taking place at the level of defense ministers or their deputies. The United States is represented by Ambassador to NATO Matthew Witka. The meeting was convened by the United Kingdom and Germany, and they will also be presiding. Ukraine is represented by the new Minister of Defense, Shmyhal, and the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, Umerov. And we already have the first statements from Ramstein. British Defense Minister Gilly confirmed that the country supports the new plan for large-scale NATO arms deliveries to Ukraine, which was proposed in the United States. Moreover, on the eve of the meeting, the media reported that the United Kingdom would propose a new decisive campaign at Ramstein called 50 Days of Arming Ukraine. According to the plan, Ukraine's partners are to use this time to force Putin to the negotiating table.
The United States has started the countdown of the 50-day period during which Putin must agree to peace, otherwise he faces devastating economic sanctions. As members of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, we in turn must make a 50-day push to arm Ukraine on the battlefield and force Putin to the negotiating table.
It's no secret that London is one of the leading advocates for Ukrainian interests, and not just in words. Over the past 2 months, the United Kingdom has supplied Ukraine with anti-aircraft missiles and artillery shells worth £150 million. In the past 6 months, the United Kingdom has supplied Ukraine with 50,000 drones, plus another 20,000 from a coalition of countries led by the UK and Latvia. It is also known that further commitments will be made on Monday. Germany and the United Kingdom will agree to purchase more air defense missiles, using €170 million from Berlin. Meanwhile, a conference organized by Zelensky was held in parallel in Kyiv. More than 100 ambassadors and heads of diplomatic missions gathered there. One of the key decisions is that French companies will start producing drones in Ukraine. It's no surprise, since the French foreign minister himself had the opportunity to see the destruction in Kyiv with his own eyes just a few hours after the Russian shelling, right before the conference. We thank Ukraine's partners for their support. I know that many of you are watching us from abroad. Let's do a little roll call. Write in the comments which country you're watching us from and whether you support Ukraine in its fight against Putin's evil empire. I always enjoy reading your comments. Negotiations between Ukraine and Russia in Istanbul may take place as soon as the 23rd of July or 24th. This was reported by the Turkish publication Independent Turkey. According to the media, efforts are underway to organize a diplomatic meeting at the delegation level between both countries. Although the exact details regarding the location, time, and participants are being kept secret, it is known that the parties will discuss technical issues, prisoner exchanges, humanitarian aid, security infrastructure, and measures to stabilize the borders.
Active preparations for the meeting are currently underway, locations are being determined, logistics are being organized, and security measures are being implemented. The event will take place in a closed format. The results will be announced through official channels.
In addition, it is known that recently President Zelensky announced that Ukraine has proposed to Russia to hold a new meeting at the delegation level as early as this week. We know that you are watching us from different countries, and we want you to better understand what it means to negotiate with Russia. It is worth recalling that on May 16, Ukraine and Russia held a meeting at the delegation level in Istanbul. It was planned that this would be the start of substantive peace negotiations, but the Russians only repeated their old demands for capitulation and threatened with endless war. On the 2nd of June, during yet another round, the Russians also put forward unacceptable demands. And what do you think, if another round takes place, will it be much different from the previous negotiations? Or will Russia once again say, give us more territory than we have occupied? Don't join NATO, reduce your army, and so on. And these are a series of absolutely absurd demands. Write your opinion in the comments.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Putin really could meet with US President Trump. This was stated by Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. But, of course, there is a condition. According to Peskov, Putin can meet with Trump only if he visits China.
Xi will invite Trump to a parade in China in September to mark the end of World War II. Putin will also be at this celebration, as he has already accepted the Chinese leader's invitation.
At the same time, over the weekend, the media reported that Trump might travel to China before heading to the APEC summit, which will take place from the 30th of October to the 1st of November. Do you believe such a meeting will actually happen? Putin, your turn has come. Trump is getting ready to kick your ass. Senator Lindsey Graham made this sharp statement. On Fox News, Senator Lindsey Graham emphasized that the head of the White House is tired of Moscow's games and is planning to strike at Russian oil soon.
Trump will impose tariffs on buyers of Russian oil. China, India, and Brazil buy 80% of cheap Russian oil. This supports Putin's war machine. Trump will impose a 100% tariff on these countries for helping Putin. Putin can survive sanctions. He doesn't care about Russian soldiers. China, India, and Brazil will have to choose between the US and Putin, and most likely they'll choose the US.
According to the senator, the US plans to impose tariffs against China, India, and Brazil if these countries do not stop buying Russian oil. And what do you think, will our partners manage to pressure Putin, or does he just not care about the sanctions? Share your thoughts in the comments. Russians really love to claim things that aren't theirs, whether it's territory, culture, or even famous people. I'm sure that no matter which country you're from, you know the legendary Ukrainian boxer Alexander Usyk, and you've definitely seen his recent truly triumphant victory over the Briton Dubois with a knockout in the 5th round. So, after our boxer's victory, messages like these started spreading on Russian internet forums.
An ordinary, humble guy from our Russian city of Simferopol became the undisputed world boxing champion. After the match, he said, "I dedicate this victory to my homeland, Russia. Congratulations to Alexander Usyk, announcer."
Well, here, besides claiming Usyk as Russian, they of course also appropriated Ukrainian Crimea for themselves. But what surprises me is something else. Aren't Russians at all bothered by the fact that Usyk boxes under the Ukrainian flag, thanks the armed forces of Ukraine, and actually shouts glory to Ukraine? So how they can call him their athlete is just beyond me. But I want to remind the dumb Russians, Crimea is Ukraine, and I know for sure that it will return. Announcer, Russia is sending Ukrainians deported from Russia not to the border with Ukraine, but to the border with Georgia. Ukraine, on the other hand, is demanding that Ukrainians be returned to our border. Currently, Ukrainians are being held at the Russian-Georgian border in inhumane conditions, in basements and without food. All the details of the abuse of Ukrainians are coming up next. Vyacheslav.
Well, basically, here's the exit. That's the border over there, leading to Georgia, and here's where we live.
Ukrainians
are stuck in the buffer zone between Russia and Georgia. Anna.
Russia is constantly deporting Ukrainian citizens through Verkhny Lars. But we've never encountered so many people at once before. According to our information, people are now being brought to the border from all over Russia, from Volgograd, Engels, Tula, Tambov, Elista, Oryol. All of them had been held in deportation centers for foreign citizens for a very long time. Apparently, an order for deportation came from above.
Narrator, at the Deriali checkpoint, which is on the border between the Russian Federation and Georgia, dozens of Ukrainians remain trapped. Among them are those who were expelled from Russian prisons, including from the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Anatoly.
Look, these people have already been sitting here for months. There is absolutely no space, no air. Look, wet clothes are being dried wherever people can find a spot. Look here. This person is unwell. He has asked the doctors for help several times, but no one listens to him. The doctors don't provide any treatment at all. Nothing is being done. Look at how terrible the conditions are here. A dangerous fire could potentially break out here at any given moment, as there are exposed electrical wires absolutely everywhere.
The Georgian side provided us with food supplies. The pate is slightly expired, and the canned stew is almost 6 months past its expiration date.
The Georgian authorities, who are close to the Russians, refuse to let Ukrainians cross the border until they receive confirmation from the Ukrainian embassy in Tbilisi.
This is our life. This is how we live. They are almost sick, as if they have no heads at all. I'm sitting at the bus stop for a very long time. On top of that, there aren't enough seats for everyone. We sleep in ships. There are crowds of people everywhere. This is how we truly live.
Narrator, people are forced to live in harsh, unsanitary conditions. Anna,
In the basement at Verkhny Lars or in Daryal on the Georgian side, there are already 90 Ukrainian citizens. There are only 17 beds there. There is no air there. In this heat, close to 40 degrees, it's hell. These people have no access to fresh air. They are not allowed outside. There is no toilet there. To use the toilet, they are taken out one by one under guard. Some people have been sitting there for a month and a half already. Narrator.
Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Andriy Sybiha, believes that Russia is using the deportation of Ukrainian citizens through Georgia as a tool of pressure. Andriy Sybiha.
We are actively working with the Georgian and Moldovan sides on the transit of our people who remain back to Ukraine. However, there are no guarantees that Russia will not increase the number of deportees. Narrator.
The minister proposed that Russia transfer these people directly to the Ukrainian border. Andriy Sybiha.
To avoid further complications, we publicly propose that Russia direct these categories of Ukrainian citizens directly to the Ukrainian border. We will be ready to receive them from there. Narrator.
After meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the President of Ukraine stated that Ukrainian diplomats are working on organizing the transit of citizens to Ukraine. Andriy Sybiha.
They are essentially being thrown out of Russian territory without documents and without warning either the Ukrainian or the Georgian side. Ukrainian diplomats are working on organizing the transit of these citizens of our country to Ukraine. Narrator.
According to the Tbilisi volunteer organization, among those at the checkpoint are people from various backgrounds, including those who have never committed any crimes and have no criminal record. Some had indeed been convicted in the past, but they have already served their sentences and have the right to a full life. Anna.
It is estimated that up to 60% of former inmates may have HIV, and most have tuberculosis in a latent form. It is unknown how these diseases will progress as a result of being kept in the basement. One of the people in the basement is disabled and uses crutches. He became ill last night. An ambulance was called.
Narrator. In June, Ukrainian citizens were already evacuated from Georgia to Moldova, but now Moldova has closed transit for citizens who were deported to Georgia from Russia. The Georgian Ministry of Internal Affairs claims that they are holding negotiations with Kyiv and Chisinau. There is a deportation prison in Tbilisi with basic conditions: water, 3 meals a day, and medical care. But these people are not being transferred there. Man!
I'm telling you, it's be your responsibility. It's not our responsibility. It's family and them, man.
The Russian migration authorities are bringing many people to the border, and checking everyone could take months, if not years. The increase in the flow of deportees is linked to a decree by Putin, which has already come into force. According to it, Ukrainians must either legalize their status or leave the country by the 10th of September 2025. The decision also applies to Ukrainian regions occupied by Russia. After the 10th of September, the influx is expected to be even greater.
Art outside of politics no longer works, at least not for civilized people. In Italy, the concert of Russian conductor and Putin's friend Valery Gergiev was cancelled. Before this, the planned concert had sparked a scandal. The Italian government and international activists also voiced their criticism.
A performance at the former Bourbon Royal Palace north of Naples would have effectively ended the ban on Gergiev performing on European stages, which was imposed after Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Around 40 Ukrainian organizations from Italy, Poland, Canada, and other countries called for the cancellation of the Putin-supporting conductor's performance in Italy. Italy's Minister of Culture also criticized the decision made by the regional authorities. We hope that this practice will spread to all cultural events around the world, especially when it is called art. Because, as is well known, art is something lofty, with steadfast moral principles. Do you support initiatives to cancel Russian culture, which is an unquestionable representative of Russian terrorism? Write your thoughts below this video. They say that life itself is the best comedian. The next story is nothing less than a vivid confirmation of that. Do you remember how the story about the affair between the director of an IT company and the HR manager of the same company made headlines when cameras caught them together at a Coldplay concert? Here's the video in case you forgot. So the story became so viral that people actually started the kind of flash mob, making fun of the situation. At another concert, the cameraman also started filming couples in love, and all of them began reacting just like the IT guy and his lover. But this time, of course, everyone understood that it wasn't about cheating, but about irony. Please consider liking this video to show your support for what we do here, and be sure to subscribe to the official Ukraine Today channel so that you absolutely do not miss any of the upcoming episodes. See you!